Welcome aboard. Need help? Use help tutorials.
Welcome in, everybody. Today we're going on a scheduled flight from Venice Lima Indy Papa Zulu Airport to Krakow in Poland. So another another European flight. Grantham is the captain, and we're going to be en route in approximately 5 to 10 minutes. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. We're expecting clear skies and slight overcast weather on arrival, but otherwise everything's looking good. We're just outside the aircraft now, the Boeing 777, and we're preparing to do a quick walk around before we get going. We're going to park next to a fantastic looking Emirates, I might add. Yes, another fantastic looking plane, another 777. So here's ours. We're just going to go ahead and check some things first. I need to check the front wheel and the right engine. Well, that'll be the left, but it's on our right side. So that wheel's looking alright. This is a magnificent looking plane from the outside. And welcoming, if it's your first time here. And I think that engine looks good. It's just nice to start from the outside for once. The 300 extended range is actually not going to be in use today. And you're probably wondering why. Well, it's had to undergo some maintenance. It's been doing quite a lot of flying. So we've kind of overdone it, I think, on the aircraft. So the aircraft now needs some internal parts and avionics changing. I'm sure that'll be done in no time, but as you can see, it's a lovely day in Venice. We're just going to go ahead and start the aircraft now. So we're going to switch our battery on, switch our APU on, make sure we have some aircraft power. We switch our low navigation lights so the ground crew know what we're working on the aircraft. And thank you to everyone who watched my previous stream on Microsoft Flight Simulator. I really appreciate that as well. It's great to be back on flightgear. This is the 2020 version now. Since the last time we were on flightgear, there's actually been some changes. One of those changes has been the new release. Flightgear 2024 has been released. So I gave it a go and I was a bit like, okay, sure. You know, it's Friday, Saturday, it's the end of the week. I'll give it a chance before Monday. So I went on the new release of flightgear, and I have to say I was really quite disappointed, because for such a major release, you would expect a lot to have been done on it, but unfortunately there wasn't. So it looked slightly better in terms of its lighting and shadowing. However, the performance was really quite poor, and I was struggling to get, you know, 20-30 frames on my computer, which is, and at times it was unplayable because it was lagging and it was staggering, and a lot of things were going wrong with it. And of course there were issues with the menus. I was in this 777 like I am now, and I went into the handy viewer up here. Now usually when I use this, there's no issues. I can just click the viewpoint that I want and it'll work. So anyway, in the new version, I clicked on these and they weren't working. Like, the viewpoints that you wanted could not be selected, so it was like a guessing game. I had to guess which one was where, so that wasn't very fun. So I think overall I'm going to stick with the 2020 version for now. If anyone's out there and is still looking to get in flightgear, I definitely recommend the 2020 version, because the 2024 version, you know, for someone who has such a quality computer, PC game and computer, I expect to be able to play those games with no issues. I can play X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator on ultra quality settings, and my computer can easily pull in over 100 FPS on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 on ultra. And yeah, on flightgear 2024 it can't even pull in 30 FPS on ultra settings. So yeah, that's really disappointing. So I'll be sticking with this. Let's get going, let's get started, and give you a rundown on the new one a bit later on. We'll have a brief chat about it. So we've done our idea. We need to turn our emergency lights to armed. Window heat can go on. We do need to request startup. Radio should be on. It might not be tuned. Probably not tuned to the ground services, so this is what we do in real life ground. See, we're not tuned in. 121.7. 121.7. We request this first. There we go.
Ground. This is call sign. Position 324 undefined. Information Yankee. IFR Tbilisi. Request startup. Call sign. Startup approved. Yankee correct. Runway 04R. Fly runway heading squawk 6056. For pushback and taxi clearance, call 121.70. Venezia Cesare ground control.
Awesome, so we've been given our clearance to fly 04 right, departure, fly runway heading squawk 06056 for pushback and taxi clearance, call 121.7. So yeah, now 6056.
Startup approved. Correct. Runway 04R. fly runway heading squawk 6056, for pushback and taxi clearance call 121.70, call sign.
Okay, so fly runway 404. We do need to start doing the FMC. I did load the route up previously before loading in, but oh, okay, so it's actually done it correctly. So on my map before loading, it didn't show a LIPZ departure. So we'd go ahead and select number 4. Right, we're actually doing the cheat way. I'll show you how to do it on the FMC flight management computer in a second. Just check, because sometimes you can have in these waypoints and airways there'll be a 500 nautical mile stretch, and that means the route hasn't been programmed correctly. So that's looking actually correct. So we'll go ahead and leave that. We're going to go ahead and put our stuff in here, initialize our position. We're at LIPZ Airport, Lima Indigo Papa Zulu, that's Venice. We're not actually a gate, so we can leave that. Our GPS position is our inertial position. So you can see there it's already set our runway for us since we did it in the overhead panel option. Okay, flight number, we can make up something. We know our call sign, it's usually Golf Sierra Tango Bravo Alpha, but we make up a call sign, call it BA 524, and we'll activate that. Okay, now you see on the map the line is flashing. Cruising altitude, well, it's actually quite high, it's about 37,000 feet. Cost index 82.7, 82.7, excuse me. Let's get our pushback connected.
Bot 2581, ready to start up.
Got another one next to us.
Ready to start up.
Another BA flight nearby, just checking for it. Well, we need to switch to ground anyway.
Venezia Cesare ground, switching to 121.70.
I'm already on that frequency. Okay, so we're already on it. Back to the FMC. Ground weight. I forgot to mention the estimated flight time when we set off is about probably an hour and a half. Maybe an hour. Depends what the headwinds are like. Okay, so that's done. Thrust limit. Take off. Well, we could. I think we can just leave that. Maybe take off -10 and climb 1. Outside air temperature is 13 Celsius. That's pretty good. Take off. You want 5 laps. This isn't working properly. I have got it to work before. Okay, departure.
Bot 2581, startup approved, Yankee correct, runway 04R, fly runway heading squawk 4163, for pushback and taxi clearance call 121.70, Venezia Cesare ground control.
Okay, I hope that radio is quiet soon.
Yankee correct, runway
Can be a little bit distracting.
heading squawk 1055.
Doesn't seem to be any way of quieting it.
Clearance call 121.70, Venezia Cesare ground control.
Apologies if you can hear, if you can't hear me correctly, but as you can see, we're starting the FMC correctly. We've programmed the route. Going from LIPZ, and this is our route with waypoints, all these waypoints, then airways, and then that's our destination, Echo Papa Kilo Kilo, which is Krakow.
Venezia Cesare ground, switching to 121.70, bot 2581.
Okay, that should be programmed.
Venezia Cesare ground, switching to 121.70.
I'll go ahead and get our pushback.
Venezia Cesare ground, with you, bot 2581. Venezia Cesare ground, with you, 9U383. Bot 2581, Roger, Venezia Cesare ground. 9U383 Roger, Venezia Cesare ground. Venezia Cesare ground, request pushback, bot 2581. Venezia Cesare ground, request pushback, 9U383.
There's an insane amount of traffic at this airport.
Venezia Cesare ground, with you, call sign. Call sign, Roger, Venezia Cesare ground. 9U383 pushback approved, Venezia Cesare ground.
Pushback approved.
Pushback
We're already in the process.
Venezia Cesare ground.
That's fine.
Venezia Cesare ground, request pushback, call sign.
Massive airport, absolutely tons of aircraft on a Monday. Fantastic Emirates livery 777X was another BA in the background, so very, very active. As you see, the little pushback at the front, doing his job. I'm going to make sure we're actually going to be facing runway 04. Right, that is, because I can see 2 runways, so we know which one's ours. Once we've been pushed back, the 777 can come alive. We can activate and fire up those engines, both of which are more powerful than that of the 747's 4 engines. So how about that? Okay, we have our ATC ready to taxi. We won't do it just yet because we need to start our engines. So let's go ahead and stop right there, activate our brakes, and we can start up. We were pretty much ready to start, we just needed to trigger the fuel. And we'll turn our beacon light on so that ground crew and any other aircraft know that we're starting up these engines. Otherwise there might be a collision. There they go. Okay, now the N1 is N2 is superseded or gone past 20%. We can activate fuel. We can introduce fuel and turn on the air conditioning systems and electrics and hydraulics. Bleed air should be automatic. We can turn the APU off once the engines are fully started. Taxi lights on. All of these will go off, as you can see. That means we're safe to turn the APU off. And we could probably turn, oh hang on, bit of an issue with the engines. The engines have cut out prematurely. Okay, there's a bit of an issue, it seems. Let's leave them on automatic. It may have been because we turned the generator off too soon. Usually it's not an issue. Just checking our fuel weight, make sure we have enough. May need to. Right, we'll try that one more time. We have, stick those on as well. Okay, we've been given a warning for low fuel in center, so we're gonna go ahead and check our fuel. Some people might notice we're on a new aircraft, the 777-300. As I said before, the 300 extended range has gone for maintenance, scheduled hangar maintenance, so we won't see it for quite maybe a week or two, probably less. It depends where it's going after. There's also no passengers. You'll notice there's no passengers on board this flight. We're simply keeping this. This is more of a transfer flight, so when we get to Krakow we can transfer to another aircraft, and that'll be a bit of a surprise because we're going to be heading around the Balkans on the next live stream. So if you stick around for this one and for that one, you will find out where we're going to be flying next time and what aircraft. A very special aircraft, I might add. So this time we have got no cargo or people, as I said. The fuel, double check before we get our taxi permission. Okay, so fuel's actually pretty good. We could probably make it on that. If not, we can do a mid-flight. We can make a detour mid-flight. The AP is running. We can probably, I'd say, leave it on until we get to the departure, takeoff. Request our taxi.
Venice ground, ready to taxi, call sign.
The auto throttle as well, just before we go.
Call sign, clear to taxi, Venice ground.
Okay, great. We're cleared to taxi. It's a 04, right? We've already got our... it's a shame you can't see the chat dialogue, but we've already been given our departure.
Venice ground, clear to taxi, call sign.
Alright, let's go. So welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. Oh dear, dear, dear. There's not one problem, there's another. We now have a...
63, ready to start up.
tiller problem. As you can see, or maybe you can't, I'm getting a steady, you know, steady 45, 50 frames on this. The 2020 version. I have spoken a little bit about the new flight gear release and my disappointment in it. No passengers, but we'll stick them on auto anyway. Good practice. Double check that everything's on. Flaps set. We'll increase the altitude to 37,000 for our departure. And we'll let the aircraft decide the rate of climb. And there's the windsock. We have a crosswind.
This is LX 1663, position 114 undefined, information Yankee, IFR to Zurich.
Let's hope it's not too strong a crosswind and we don't crash.
LX 1663, startup approved. Yankee.
Estimated flight time, flight ETA is about 1 hour, 1 hour 30 minutes. Weather on arrival is expected to be clear with a chance of overcast weather and possibly snow. Some people will notice we're now noticing the green grass, and that's spring coming through. We haven't had this on previous live streams, so well done if you've noticed. And just look at this, you don't really need the new version when you got this. I mean, this works perfectly fine. As they say, don't fix something if it's if you don't need to. Just crank the lights up a little bit so you can see. See what we're doing.
Switching to 121.70 LX 1663. Ground, review LX 1663.
There's the runway. All right. Need to check the weather. Make sure we have the correct altimeter. Okay, it's 30 decimal 33. 33 at the end there. And here's our hold short position. We don't want to taxi onto runway 04 just yet. Now, I've had some issues with the ATC before. Sometimes you can taxi to the holding point and it won't give the option to communicate with them. Sometimes you have to taxi onto the runway, but most of the time it doesn't work, so we're going to go ahead and depart straight out. We are going to have to turn around a little bit since it's such a big aircraft. Slightly lighter today though than previous flights. Check those spoilers. Okay, some people notice we still got the APU running. Well done to you, keen-eyed. Here we go, turn round. The infamous 180 turn. Okay, there we go, the holding short option has come out. Even though we're holding short on the runway, we're actually on the runway, so we're lined up at this point. Let's go ahead and call them and see what happens. And it won't let us call them, so I think that's the end of ATC for now. Goodbye and good day. You can go ahead and change frequencies. Alright, let's go. Landing lights on, strobes on, parking brake off, and one set. Airspeed alive. V1. V1. Rotate. And a slight crosswind there on takeoff. Positive rate climb, gear up. The autothrottle kicks in as we make our way for the departure route. Running lights off. Turn the APU off. You see we're doing that banking angle on the departing upwinged leg. We may have the autothrottles on, but as I mentioned in the past, the autothrottles and the autopilot are completely separate from one another. We say goodbye to LIPZ, Venice, and G&W to Poland, Krakow. So welcome aboard, and I hope you enjoyed the flight. Hopefully it's not going to be too bumpy. I will switch on the autopilot once we get past 10,000 feet, or maybe later, it depends. Fantastic view, really good water effects down there, good sunlight reflections. As I say, infamous, this airport, Marco Polo Airport in Venice. A nice straight out climb, about 3,500 feet a minute. We are going to retract our flaps once the speed builds up a little bit. Retract them once we get to about, retract one there, and then we retract the other one once we get to about 220. As you can see, the departure route that's popped up on the map, Acado or Cardo. That's our departure route, and that's the waypoint. Double check the route manager. There's not any height restrictions for it. There might be in real life, so maybe it's worth following a different map. Although I find the flightgear maps absolutely acceptable for what they need to do. As we pass through 10,000 feet, I should have done it before we took off, but I'm going to activate the lateral navigation and click autopilot. And retract that last set of flaps. Allow the plane to climb through to 37,000 feet, flight level 370. So you have your checkpoints, and then you have your waypoints and your airways. So the first checkpoint is a waypoint. Those lines in between represent airways, and we'll be flying along those airways at a seemingly unrestricted height. So we'll be flying our cruising altitude, hopefully. We're just passing through 14,000 feet, approximately 240 knots. Increasing speed to 320 knots and 37,000 feet momentarily. Crank the volume of them engines down because they're rather loud. Seems to be quite loud on the speakers as well. Okay, let's zoom out. Let's see what distance we have to travel. So we're in Venice, that's in Italy. Yeah, south of Europe. We're going up to the northeast through this like corridor of airways and waypoints. Up northeast, and there it is. We get to Venice Krakow Airport, and it's giving us a direct waypoint. We do need to program in the approach, so we'll do the ILS on runway 25. I'll go ahead and do that now. So we know that 25 is our route. We do a standard approach. Can't really do a star. It says none on there, so it's gone and put it in for us. We'll be doing the approach to runway 25, and there it is. There's the approach. So go from Scavi down here. We have to descend by the time we get to Scavi. No, we only have to descend at 2512, which is about there. Well, really, we will start descending here from 37,000, maybe from 37,000, or we'll probably be at 30,000, 20,000, who knows. Enjoy the flight, everybody. I'll leave the little canvas map up for you, or would you prefer it like that? Somebody should let me know, and let me know what you prefer. Say goodbye to the Italian seas, the Mediterranean. I'll leave that on this screen there for you. Go ahead and increase that to 320 for our cruise. Just double checking my settings, everything seems to be fine. There was a little bit of an edge to the map, so I want to make sure it's all loaded in correctly. There you go, and I hope, as you can see the clock down the left, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, GMT time. GNW, any Polish people inside the arena, and yeah, I'll leave you to it. Check in with you when we're about halfway there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I've returned to the flight deck after a quick break to get a drink, so I hope nothing was going wrong in the meantime. I trust the autopilot on 777. The Boeing 777, one of the most advanced aircraft ever made. Once upon a time, it used to be one of the only aircraft, well, one of the few early developed aircraft that was fly-by-wire, but nowadays it seems commonplace to be a fly-by-wire situation, so yeah. I've just realised we are going 0.8 for Mach. The autopilot system has been smart enough to change it to Mach. I don't believe I changed it, so well done to the autopilot again. Travelling about 270 knots, 37,000 feet. We may have a situation with fuel. We may have a mayday situation because I cannot... Let me check the autopilot. So the route, this big stretch from Jan to Jablonka. I hope I'm saying that right. These two DMEs, the waypoints, are over 100 nautical miles apart. Now, I don't usually do detours, but the fuel situation is a little bit worrying. Now, if it does get too low, which is kind of at that point now, I'm gonna just use the God mode of automatically refilling the tanks whilst in mid-air. Thank you very much. Of course, we still got we got no passengers. This is more of a transfer flight. I'm transferring over to Poland, Krakow for a few nights, and then on Wednesday we'll be continuing around the Balkan region in a completely new aircraft for a few live streams. I appreciate that you've probably come here for this 777. I love it myself. It's my favourite. It's one of my favourite aircraft to fly, along with the 737 and the likes of them. On the 747, but I don't really have access to that anymore. Flightgear's 777 model is great. I have to say the sound is rather loud, so I'm going to crank it down. Didn't realise how loud it was. Yeah, my favourite, one of the best modelled aircraft in the game. Highly recommend Flightgear 2020. I'd say give the new version a miss, just because there's quite a few bugs and issues with it. And also it seems to crash my computer, not just my game. So yeah, this is coming from someone who can play X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator with no issues. I just had someone in chat saying, would you ever do, or have you ever done I believe CPH is Copenhagen, so I haven't actually done that. Welcome on board to you as well. I'm glad you're in here. So it seems like people want me to do the CBH. Let me just double checking it's not something else, in case I embarrass myself. Yeah, Copenhagen, I thought so. So Copenhagen, we have a Copenhagen to London flight planned this Friday, courtesy of one of the chatters, and that'll be on Friday, not Wednesday. Wednesday we'll be going from Poland, Krakow Airport in a brand new aircraft. I suspect we'll be flying down to either Belgrade, or I actually want to go to Bucharest, so yeah, on Wednesday we'll go from Krakow to Bucharest in the new aircraft, and Friday we'll do Copenhagen to London in the 777 300 extended range. That'll give the engineers enough time to do the base maintenance. I think it's something to do with the engines, like one of the reverse thrusters is malfunctioned or something, and it's causing the engine to overheat, something like that. But you don't actually need the reverse thrusters to land, so yeah, you can just rely purely on the brakes. But the engineers are just keep telling me that if I don't get it fixed, it's going to end up causing a fire or something, so I don't want to get sued. Hey, no problem. Copenhagen, very busy route. Yeah, I can imagine. I've only ever seen other YouTubers and vloggers filming it. I've never actually flown it myself. I have flown from England. I've never flown from London. and I've certainly not been to Copenhagen, but I can appreciate that being within Europe, it's going to be a busy place. Just another mid-flight check, and I think the destination is Heathrow then, Copenhagen Heathrow. I've never really been particularly busy in terms of Heathrow flights. I've mostly ever flown to Gatwick, and I usually depart from Gatwick as well. We don't go to Heathrow because usually the airlines we fly with are long range, so we'll be flying from somewhere like Gatwick and we'd fly all the way across Europe to Asia, or even though predominantly based in Europe now, but that's what we were doing. We were going from Gatwick to Asia, so that would be places like Korea, South Korea that is, and China. But the European flights, I have to say, are much better, so it'll be interesting to see what Heathrow is like. And we're going to go ahead and double check our fuel again. We are reaching the halfway point, so the Boeing 777 has handled it very well. We're at 7.2. Okay, so we probably need to switch the anti-ice on as well. Forgot to turn the lights on. Gonna do the old magic trick, unless we want to push it and risk it with about £14,000 of fuel. I just don't know, because if we get to the point where the engines shut down, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do it, to restart it without fuel. Let's go ahead and balance fuel. That's fair. That's not cheating. It's not quite cheating. As you can see, the total route time has been about an hour and a half to hour 40 minutes. I think it's something like 400 and over 400 nautical miles, so it's not too far. The biggest stretch is yet to come. We still got the 100 nautical mile ban airway to fly through. And these are, like I said, these are waypoints, but we have the airway in between to fly through. And once we get there, I think I always touch on this, but just in case people are new and they don't realise, these are height restrictions. If you are coming down to approach runway 25, you need to be below 4,800 feet, and because that's below 10,000 feet, you need to be below 250 knots. So even though at this point we're going to be approaching the glide slope, we need to be below 4,800. We also need to consider the fact that we need to be like really slow as well. So I'd say 170. We have our landing speeds. I think there's the reference, about 155 it's saying. Now that's probably on par with a 747. The sheer weight of this aircraft when it's empty, even when it's empty, it's 172 tons, wingspan of 200 feet. The engines are 115,000 pounds each. As I say, that's more than 747's 4 engines combined. So that just tells you the sheer power of this. It's not quite as agile and nimble as the 757. As you say, the pencil with wings. The 777 is its own beast, its own like mighty machine, so I highly recommend it. Highly recommend giving it a go. It's extremely intuitive to use. Not all the features of the FMC are working, but I think we can look past that because the majority of them are, and the important ones are, so we can plan a route, fly the routes with absolutely no issues. Just hope in the future they bring out some more liveries for the aircraft. Now that's quite interesting. I've just seen your message in chat. I know I responded by text. I do become a bit shy of Heathrow because it's a major airport. It's probably bigger, a lot bigger than Gatwick. But SAP, I don't really know anything about them. I looked at the map. You were literally right next to Heathrow Airport. So yeah, pretty cool. I bet you see all the planes coming in and out on a daily basis. That would have been cool, wouldn't it? Yeah, major airport. Heathrow is fine, yeah. I'm absolutely fine going to Heathrow. It's no problem. It's no problem for Friday. I should ask that every stream actually. What's everyone's favourite aircraft and favourite plane? I have to say mine's definitely the 777 at the moment, and it has been for quite a few weeks. We're in the 777 now. We're on our last half an hour stretch before we land in Krakow, Poland. Dzień dobry to any Polish folks in here as well. And I believe there's a few Germans watching me, so guten Tag. I hope we can get to meet more Europeans, and we have like a cross section of European culture in our chat at one point in the future. That'd be great. Ah, okay. We have someone speaking in German now. Okay, great. Great. I hope I remember correctly, but I can say, I believe it's Guten Tag and then Wie geht es dir? I studied so little German, but I remember quite a bit. I'm more, not really into the German anymore, but I enjoyed it while I did it, while I studied it. Okay, we do have half an hour remaining approximately on the flight. We're actually going to approach that long stretch, which is about 100 kilometers, excuse me, 100 nautical miles. So this would be an ideal time to start a slow descent. Now we have a reference point. So if we go en route, this is quite important if you want to know how to descend in time. So we know that from this Jan waypoint to Jablonka is 113 nautical miles. So we can now use the 113 nautical miles to calculate our descent rate down to approximately, let's say, 12,000 feet. So we go into this little computer at the side. This is like a personal computer for the pilot. We click on Pilot Utilities, Descent Rate Calculator. Now this is really handy function. We're at flight level 370, so we'll go and put that in, which is 37,000 feet, 370. And we want to get down to 12,000, so that's 120, yeah. Ground speed, well, we're at Mach 0.8.84 at the moment, so let's just leave that as it is. Ground, we'll leave that at 250. Target ground speed 250. Distance to target, we know it's 100. We'll double check that. 113 nautical miles. 113, and it's given us a descent rate of about 920 feet per minute. So that's a really good and useful tool in flight gear on the 777 in order to calculate how far, you know, how quickly you have to descend over a given time and distance. So yeah, great, really great. So 920 feet, we'll do about 900 feet a minute. First we changed our altitude, we got an altitude alert down to 12,000. Easy way of doing it. Now I won't click it just yet. I'm going to select the vertical speed 900 feet per minute. Just check the pressure, so we go click airport info, weather. The pressure has changed to 30.36. In Britain, in England, we wouldn't really use inches, we'd use the hectopascals. So if you're ever in England, the pilots will be on a different pressure system as it can be expected. In the United States, you would expect to find inches, so they'd probably say something like 30.36 inches. In England, they say 1013 hectopascals, which is usually the standard pressure reading. Okay, we're descending quite nicely, 280. No need for any flaps. We don't worry about flaps or anything like that until we get onto the approach leg. Oh, Danish. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, you have quite a life story going on. You have your... Yes, very interesting. From Copenhagen, England, just outside Heathrow, Copenhagen, Danish, Denmark. Yeah, incredible. There's probably a nice story in there, a good book to be written about your experiences. That'd be very cool to read. I think more people should probably write biographies. This is a slight increase in descent rate as we pass over the mountains. Fantastic looking view though as we pass into... for some reason the terrain isn't being spawned in quick enough, but as we pass into Poland on our approach, this part is our major descent rate part. We've actually done really well on fuel as well. I really thought for a moment we might have a fuel situation. We've barely got enough to get there. We've got £8,000, which is that's pushing it. You know, we're sort of hanging on a wire at this point. The Boeing 777 warning us that fuel quantity is low. We'll just have to bite the bullet, and if it fails, the engines fail, we can just do an emergency landing and yeah, pray we survive. It's pointless putting these center pumps on because the fuel tank hasn't got any fuel in it. Slight lag, apologies for the lag as well. The game is usually very good with in terms of its performance. Change that to airspeed, 312. It's probably because we were higher than 35,000 feet. And 35,000 feet would have been a better altitude to cruise at, given the fuel situation. In fact, it's even lower on altitude because the higher up you are, the more fuel you're going to burn. The air is thinner, therefore the plane and the engines have to work considerably harder to produce the same amount of power and maintain the same altitude. Without thrust you do not have power. Without power you do not have altitude. Said it before, so important. hope this doesn't turn into an episode of Air Crash Investigation. What happened to flight BA 524? And then 2 years later it's discovered that actually we just couldn't be bothered to refuel before the departure. Go ahead and tune into. We're not quite close enough, but when we are, we'll tune into the approach frequency for Krakow, Poland, Venice. Okay, despite calculating our descent rates and giving us about 920 feet per minute, it seems like we're not going to make it in time. So I think that calculator might be slightly wrong. We did give it a correct altitude to descend us to, which is 12,000 feet. Seems we're going to have to descend at 1800 feet a minute, it's about the standard descent rate. Probably not 300 knots though, a little bit fast. I'll bring it down to 280, I think. Just allow the plane to slow down as it descends. Again, keeping an eye on the absolute danger close fuel truck, excuse me, absolute danger close fuel situation, because now we're at £6,500. Once we hit zero, hopefully not anytime soon, but it might be in the next 5 minutes, we'll crash. The timer should be about 10 minutes, so that's approximate time till arrival. It's actually gone quite well. The flight time's perfect, about an hour and a half, which is what I was expecting. Really hope you're enjoying the flight. I know I am. One of my favourite aircraft, the 777. I met a very varied mixture of routes. I hope that came out correctly. A varied mixture of routes across Europe is what we're doing every week. Scheduled flights depart at 1:30 in the afternoon. Usually last an hour to 2 hours at most. I don't tend to do longer than 2-hour flights. Unless, of course, you know, it's a good flight and I'm enjoying it. I have done before. 2 hours is usually the average for a long one. And then a short one would be about an hour. So far it's been going pretty well actually. We've been doing it so consistently every week on flightgear, which is a free flightgear simulation software available online. I have mentioned the 2024 version in case you haven't already heard me say it. I recommend the 2020 version. Excuse me. 2020 version of flightgear. The new version has some bugs, so you might want to avoid it till those bugs are fixed. And considering they're not going to do any updates until the next release, we should be on the new engine. I actually don't recommend the new one anymore. I don't recommend it. I recommend the 2020 version instead. And I should be upgrading to hopefully X-Plane 12 in about a week's time. So it doesn't mean we're going to be saying goodbye to the 777. It just means we're going to be engaging with a game with much better graphics and much better software and mechanics and physics. So the experience is going to be, you know, elevated to a whole other level. So I hope people are going to be enjoying that content, predominantly in the 737. We still use the flight gear for 777, and we use X-Plane 12 for the 737. So that'll be interesting. And we'll probably do some more European routes as something like Ryanair. We're not Ryanair today, with British Airways. Appreciate you being here as well. It means a lot. Go ahead and change that to 8,000 feet, 8,000, and that's in anticipation of our approach legs. Scavi, Sierra Kilo Alpha Victor Indigo is our last waypoint before the approach route. Okay, we have our airport information. Echo Papa Kilo Kilo for Belize, Krakow Airport, 30.30 on the pressure. So a slight drop in pressure, as expected. I have to say the game is quite strange today. It's not loading in the scenery. You shouldn't be able to see the edge of the map like that, so I apologise. You don't usually see that. We are on descent rate. We are on critical fuel, absolute critical at this point. Two and a half, barely 6,000 pounds of fuel left. Look at that. It's pretty much empty. We are going to have to activate the APU soon because the engines are going to shut down otherwise. We are descending. We're going to turn that down to 240 as we approach the airport. Check those rendering options as well. Make sure. I mean, it has got it up to show 10,000 scenery tiles. Whew, this is the most nerve-wracking flight of my life. No fuel. Absolute critical situation. Slight miscalculation on departure as well. But we'll survive. Okay, we're making our descent turn. We are actually doing quite well now. We've managed to get down to about 12,000 feet. Go ahead and descend all the way down to our target height, which should be below 4,800. So we're going to go ahead and descend to about 4,500. Well, probably 2,500 because they will be descending at a fairly slow rate. So we'll do 2.5 on the autopilot. About 2,000 feet a minute. It should get us in there in time. So now we're in the approach leg. We're going to start arming and preparing the aircraft for landing. Landing lights on. We're going to set our speed brake to arm. Check. Flaps. Not quite yet because we're not below 250. We are currently close though. There's the airport. Just about on our sort of lower left somewhere. I hope this isn't a grass runway. I should have double checked that. I'm pretty sure this is the main runway though. It's looking very nice, Poland. It's looking very detailed. The scenery is all proper and appearing correct. The clouds are well formed and yeah, it's looking very pretty. If you notice, some of you keen-eyed viewers will notice there's no snow because we've been switched from winter to spring. So winter's officially over. You can expect many more green. And look at that. Look how beautiful Krakow looks. Very, 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 very pretty. Yeah, you can expect much more colourful streams in the future. As long as it stays spring, of course. As soon as it changes to autumn, we'll change it again. We are using real-time and real-world weather from Meta. Okay, there's our turn. Still descending. We're going to drop a notch of flaps. This is going to be 5,500 pounds. I think we can do this. I think we can land in time. We should really have reserves just in case of a go around or a diversion. Look at that though, the scenery in the detail on Poland is magnificent. Okay, there's another approach turn. We do need to start increasing our descent rate. Should be automatically tuned to that localizer once we get on the glide slope. Or on the localizer, sorry. Another notch of flaps. Slightly over speed. I'm going to put the auto brake to 2. There we go. Slightly steep there on the last turn. We need to in case we miss this approach leg. Okay, descending very fast. Decrease our speed now to our landing speed, which is about 160. We're very low on weight and very low on fuel, so we don't need to worry about going too slow. I said 160, that's a good speed to aim for. Autopilot, route manager, just one quick check of that. Yeah, we're below, not quite below 2,800. We were getting there.
2,500.
There's a call out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Captain speaking, please prepare for a beautiful landing in Krakow, Poland. And look at it. This is every European traveller's dream. Clear skies, green grass. Can't go wrong. Okay, speed's decreasing now quite rapidly as we approach an invisible airport. I have no sight of the airport. I hope this exists. So we activate the localizer. Another notch of flaps and we bring the gear down. Speed will drop very quick. Very quickly. We got 12 seconds on the timer. We have actually done it in time. Don't worry about being late. We've made it in the scheduled allocated time. And welcome in as well. Welcome to everyone who's just joining for the landing section. We are about to land in Krakow, Poland. I'm going to be needing my attention on the aircraft, so I'll check in the chat as soon as we touch down. And there it is. The aircraft is aligned correctly with Krakow Airport, Venice runway. J&W to any Polish folks. Go ahead and select approach, because this Boeing 777 makes its approach leg to the airport. Run final. Land lights on, speed brakes armed, flaps down. You see localizer is green, glide slope is white because we're not intercepted it just yet. The diamond will highlight magenta, there it goes. Now it's highlighted magenta and move towards the centre. That means we're locking onto the localizer's glide slope for runway 25. Make sure we have it set the correct heading. And as soon as it gets, it should activate land free momentarily. At which point it will start to descend towards the runway's landing spot. Okay, there it is. So it's started to descend now on the glide slope. There's the outer marker. Hopefully land free will engage itself any second. If not, we can do a manual landing. Glide slope still not. There it is. Glide slope landing is activated. So when it lands, it'll do the flare and the rollout. We're now going to sit back and wait till we get to a couple of hundred feet above the runway. At which point we're going to disconnect the autopilot and land it ourselves.
$1,000.
1,000 feet. Nice little lake there before we go in. Beautiful city, Krakow. I have to go back there for real. Slow down to 150. We are very pretty much out of fuel at this point. We're literally on short final. We've got less than £4,500 in our tanks. Okay. 500 feet. It'll be a good point to disconnect the auto throttles.
400.
400.
300.
300 feet minimums. Disconnect the autopilot as soon as it's... Yep, disconnect. I'm going to go and touch down on our own.
100.
Smooth touchdown.
50. 40, 30, 20, 10.
Oh, that was butter. That was absolute butter.
5,000.
Reverse thrusters, spoilers.
1,000.
Fantastic. And even our auto brakes worked on that one. Great. So welcome to Krakow, ladies and gentlemen. That was a very good flight. I think we've done well. We've done that in time. We did it with no fuel left at the end there. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we are going to go ahead and taxi to wherever it is we may be parking. I'm not familiar with the airport. We don't really have access to maps. That's absolutely fine though. We don't really need to worry about maps. We're not going in this. We aren't knowing where we're going though. Okay, I'm very impressed with the runway, in general the scenery and the lighting on this game. This is the flightgear 2020, so it's already quite good in its lighting and shading. And yeah, the quality and the detail is good enough to play on. I'd still recommend the 2020 version. Okay, we make sure our taxi lights are on, landing lights off. Just hope we don't run out of fuel before we get to the end. Slow it down so we can make this turn. Very small taxiways at this airport, I might add. I don't think this is the sort of airport for a 777. And if it is, I hope we've landed at the right one. There we go, nice smooth turn onto the taxiway. I can see some aircraft in the background there. There seems to be quite a long taxiway. We'll go ahead and taxi down at quite faster speed. Make sure you guys aren't sitting around too long in the aircraft. Even though there's no passengers, I appreciate everyone here. Okay, turning. Just look at them views. It makes me excited to explore Krakow, seeing all this. Krakow and Venice, I believe it is. Don't worry, we're not taking off again. We're just doing a fast taxi down to parking. Very fast taxi. You should never do this in real life unless you're testing the aircraft. Double check our map. We have indeed landed at Krakow Airport. Pilot blunder of the century if I didn't. Oh, I think Captain Grantham deserves some praise after that. Whew, 1.5, like barely £3,000 worth of fuel in the tanks. Oh my. If you're going to be joining us on Wednesday, we're actually not going to be taking the 777 out on Wednesday. We're going to be taking a new aircraft from this airport, Krakow. We're going to be taking it down to Bucharest in Romania. So if you're looking forward to that one, I really highly recommend coming along. And then on Friday, of course, we got the Copenhagen to London Heathrow flight, which I'm also looking forward to. So I really appreciate that suggestion as well. And here it is. It seems like we're going to be taking this parking spot. We might do with whatever this is. No terminal buildings. And there we go. We're going to cross the tarmac into the concrete. Okay, let's just check how much fuel. Well, we turn the lights off first. Check how much fuel we actually got left. Wow. So we've done this entire flight with the correct amount of fuel. We've done it on time, and we've been left with £3,500 I have to say that's an achievement and a half. We'll go ahead and shut the aircraft down. We'll just do a quick fuel shut off. We'll end as we started. We will end outside. Turn the APU off as we're not going to be using the aircraft after it's going straight into maintenance like the 300 extended range was. Really should turn this off when we've got the batteries on so you can see what you're doing. Right, we'll go ahead and step outside. There we go. Some nice aircraft in the background there. There she is. That 777 has just made it from Venice. And now we're landing in Krakow. I think it's been a fantastic flight. It's been great to have you here. And I'm looking forward to the next one. So